Okay, so don't worry about that. That's just me managing the recording. Yeah. So if you didn't follow everything that's happening with this buffered input and output and timeouts, that's fine. Know now you have this function. It's now available and uploaded into the course samples for doing inputs with timeouts. Let's just test that out. Okay. So if I don't type anything, it times out and says that it's wrong. And maybe, just for consistency, we should have this thing print a new line. Or actually just print. We'll do it, I think. Okay, so we've got an element of time in there. Now I'd like to redesign this a little bit. So here the time is fixed at 4 seconds. I don't really want to fix it that way. I'd like to be able to change that. Maybe that's one way to make the game harder, is to specify the timeout. Okay, so we've got this game. It has some of the features we want. It has time limits. We can still play with those. Well, what's the next feature we can add to this game? We'd like it to get harder. So here's the main loop for the game. As long as the number of lives is bigger than 0, we continue. So how do we make it harder, and when do we make it get harder? Yep.
We make it harder by looking at the counter that we have for how many answers we've gotten right.
Yes. So, well, there's different ways. So I guess one question is, how do we want this uh, to look? In the sense that if I'm having a really good run and I keep answering correctly, the questions are getting harder and harder, maybe faster and faster, and then I answer incorrectly, what should happen, or how should that play out?
Should stay at the same difficulty that you're at already.
Okay, so we can have it stay at the same difficulty level, uh,
Or you can go one difficulty level down.
or you can go one difficulty level down. And now, what's a difficulty level?
We're just gonna have like a list of different difficulty level questions. Or
Yeah, we can do that, but this game actually lends itself to a sort of continuous difficulty, right?
We could just make it so like the max out can be added, getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So every time you guess correctly,
So
hopefully you're not guessing, um,
max out plus can be like 5.
max int, let's add 5. We'll make the range bigger and bigger every time. Should we do anything else?
time maybe?
Sure, let's decrease the time as well.
But if we do that, then it's gonna keep getting smaller every time, and we're gonna have like 0 seconds.
Yeah, so I could try and do something like timeout is equal to the timeout minus, I don't know, half a second.
Even then, you can only answer so many questions. You're not gonna be able to answer a question in 1 second.
Yeah, so there's a problem with that, right? Which is you can answer a question in 1 second, that's no problem, but if the timeout starts at 5 and I take off half a second each time, once you've answered 10 questions correctly, you have 0 time to answer a question. So subtracting from the timeout doesn't seem to be the right way to make it harder. Yep.
We can make it if timeout is bigger than 1, do the subtraction.
Yes. If timeout is bigger than 1, do the subtraction. So at some point you have exactly 1 second.
We could also do it so like it only does that as your like every multiple like 5 questions you get right.
You could do like
Yes, but we still need some. It's not really a lower bound, but we still don't want it ever to drop to 0. We don't want to say the maximum number of questions you could ever get right is 20 or 50 or 100 because the timeout is 0 after that.
do like an exponential model with stops at the point.
Okay, so there's a suggestion is we do an exponential model, whatever that means. So what would that mean? You've heard this term exponential before. What do you think of about when you hear exponential?
It's 2 to the power of x.
Yeah, you keep multiplying by 2 or something. Well, that's no good. We don't want the timeout to increase by a power of 2.
So you then go for 2 to the power of negative x.
So we could divide by 2. So let's try that. And we better not forget if we're going to use division. So let's try that. And maybe we want to maybe we want to let the user know how much time they have. So let's say question is equal to so we'll just before the question we'll let the user know exactly how many seconds they have to answer it. Yep.
How would we make the timer go down as they're answering the question? So like you like 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds.
So for that we have to do something a bit more sophisticated. We would use what we know for this input thing. Where is it? In here. So there's a way, something you guys can add to it if you want. So we know how to do input with timeout. So if we wanted a countdown timer, we would basically have this thing time out after 1 second and then redisplay the question with the updated time value. So we've seen, and you know this carriage return trick to go back and overwrite the question.
But wouldn't that also overwrite what you're answering? Because if you're typing in at the time, and then it goes, it's going to overwrite your answer too.
Yep. So it's not an easy thing to do. With a GUI, that would be an easy thing to do because they'd be answering in a text box, and you could display a timer somewhere else. But there are some limitations to text-based games. All right. So if we play this, I have 5 seconds to answer this. Let's try 15. Correct. 7, but why is it not going down?
Like time clock going down?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not displaying because like you have like the time resets every time you're answering a question.
Yeah, no, but why is that true?
Yeah.
Ah, that's the problem. Is, these are things that I don't want inside the while loop.
Wait, so you have to come back.
Right. So I want the questions to get harder. So they start at 10, and the timeout starts at 5. And then as you play, the maximum question size goes up and the time goes down. There, 2.5. Yeah, it's really not easy, right?
Divide by like 1.1, because you divide by 2, that's like gonna get really hard really fast.
Yeah, so already you divide by 2, you only have 2.5 seconds, so you can get maybe 2 answers correct, and then you have 1.25 seconds after 2 answers.
So like divide by 1.1.
Yeah, or just easier for me to understand if I do something like this. So I'll give you only 95% of the time you had from the previous question. Help.
53.
There we go. So, so yeah, I mean, it gets hard quickly.